All right, my friends, here we are again. Sorry, running late. We are starting in the middle of chapter 6. We are up to halacha 20. So we're talking about different fruits and how they're eaten. Basically, whenever you eat something the normal way, you make the bracha that is appropriate for it. Oitzer Adama. If you eat something in an abnormal way, then it gets downgraded to a Adama from Eitz. If it's completely not normal, then you would say Shehakol. And like we said, if it's inedible, there's no bracha. But we'll continue from Chaf. V'chen ego is shekarin muskat nus. Begin lech legamkin beyovish. V'rochan alav bar pri ha'itz. I'm just going to read it through. It's not a very common case, but it's something that we can learn from to other things. Okay, so you have this nutmeg apple, he calls it. Don't ask me what it is, because I couldn't tell you.
Looks like a wine.
Okay, some kind of nut. And it is helpful for a person who has diarrhea in order to stop it. You don't mind muting yourself. Maisha, thank you. So the way they do it is they mix it with beer. They crush it, still pieces, not completely liquefied, because if it would be liquefied, it wouldn't have ha'etz anyway. So it still have pieces. The pieces are, you would think, ha'etz. It is regilam loichlem b'yovish. It says it is normal to eat it dry. It's not like an unusual way of eating it. However, for the purpose of accomplishing this refuah, this anti-laxative, they mix it with beer. Now, if you're drinking it only for the sake of a refuah, then the main thing is the nut. Because the nut apparently is the main thing that is accomplishing this anti-laxative. And the beer is just helping it go down or helping it maybe, but it's not the main thing. So therefore the bracha is on the nut. As we're going to say later, by the way, it's an important point, but we're going to say later that whenever you eat edible food, even if your intention is only for refuah, you don't want to eat it, you're not hungry to eat it, you would not eat it except for the refuah. Nevertheless, you say a bracha on it. Because the fact is that you're enjoying it. Your taste buds enjoy it. Even if you don't want it per se, the fact is there is a positive taste there. So therefore you make the bracha ha'etz. However, he says, if you're also thirsty, so you really have there's two things that you want here. You want the one and you want the other. So, you could say that you should say both. Thirst, not the one for the thirst. You want the other one for the refuah. No, Alter Rebbe says you say just shehakol. Because A, you want the beer, and B, even in terms of the refuah, there is the accomplishment of the beer that's enabling you to drink that refuah. So that tilts it in favor of the beer. In other words, if it would just be 50-50, you want a refuah, you want to drink. Okay, maybe you could argue just make two separate brachas. But over here, you want the drink. And in terms of the refuah, the beer is also helping for the refuah. It enables you to swallow it in a way that is beneficial for the refuah. So therefore, it becomes like the main thing of the mix. So it's an interesting concept which we could maybe apply to other cases. Obviously, nobody takes this particular thing nowadays, never heard of it, but the concept is interesting. Yes.
The difference if it's with water.
I don't think so. I mean, water is only different that if you're not thirsty, you don't make a bracha on it. But if you are thirsty, I mean, you do make a bracha on it. So
It's more common to do this with water. Not
right.
beer.
The only difference is I wonder. I don't know, but apparently this beer is helpful for that refu. Otherwise, he would just eat the nutmeg. Yeah, it has something to do with the refu. I don't know if water would do that. I don't know. Okay, Chaf Aleph. This is addressing something that Eitan brought up yesterday. Zangu ba'oidei ratuv shuroi la'achila. Fresh ginger is edible. You say ha'adama and not pri ha'etz. The fisha eina yikar ha'pri, because it is not the pri, ki hu shorish tachas hakarka. It is a root under the ground. Notice how the Alter Rebbe says that the reason you're saying adama is because it's not ikra pri. We need to say, as far as the classifications of a tree, a ginger might be considered a tree. Apparently it has a root and it has a trunk and it lasts from year to year. Only thing is that ginger is not a pri, it's a root. So you can't call it the pri of the eights.
What is the pri?
I don't know if it has a pri. But this is not the pri because it's the root. It's like if you eat we discussed yesterday, the heart of a palm, the word says Shehakol because they didn't used to plant it for that purpose. Nowadays it's not because they do plant it for that purpose, but it's still not pre-haitz, it's the eitz itself. You're actually eating the tree. So that's what it is here. And the tree itself is pre-hadam. It's the fruit of the ground. So that's
why is this
I'm sorry?
Why is this I don't understand this point. I mean, if you know how ginger grows, isn't it obvious that it's a dama? It's in itself, like buried in the ground. It's not on a tree or it's not, you know what I mean?
Apparently it is the root of a tree. The ginger is a root, but the bush on top of it lasts from year to year. I don't know anything about it, but that's what it seems. The only reason it's Adama, not a eitz, is not because it's not a tree, but because it's the root and not on the tree itself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess I'm just like looking up images right now as we're talking. I guess it kind of looks like a tree, maybe.
It's a perennial. Images. Yeah, it's a plant. It's a small plant. A small plant could be a tree if it lasts from year to year. But
right.
Nevertheless, it is the root of that plant, and doesn't grow on the tree. So that's why it's actually not heights. Okay, now nobody eats dry ginger. Dry ginger is not edible. I don't think you would make any bracha on it. However, if you make it into a jam, then you would make adama because that makes it edible, the sweetness of it. The same thing with dried peppers. If you make them into a jam, never heard of this before, if you make some kind of jam out of dried peppers, which we said before, by the way, is machlekes, if there are eitz or hadama. In practice, we say hadama because of the machlekes. But in any case, they're not fit to eat dried on their own. But if you make them into some kind of cooked dish, sweet dish with honey, the honey is not going to be the main thing, rather the peppers. So you'd say the bracha on the peppers, which the maisa is hadam. That the honey is there to prepare the dish. They used to make some kind of candy out of dried ginger. They used to, yeah, they still do. They still do, yeah. I've seen it. Here they made it out of crushed ginger. Now they make it out of pieces. But whatever, the fact is, they mix it with sugar. They call it stomach powder. I guess maybe it was good for the digestion. I don't know. Even though they're not fit for eating at all on their own. Dry ginger is not fit for eating. Nevertheless, when you do mix it with the sugar to make it edible, like we said many times, the sugar is not going to be the main thing, rather a secondary thing, because it is preparing the ginger candy. You're basically having ginger candy.
What is the fruit of the ginger tree? Is there such a fruit?
When the sugar comes to, I understand that. When it's a candy,
When is a candy adama? A ginger candy is adama because it's actually candied ginger. It's not ginger flavored candy. It's actually candied. It's actually candied ginger, just like orange peels, candied orange peels.
it's not a candy, it's candy.
Candied ginger, correct. It's not a ginger candy, it's a candied ginger. So, wow, that was quick.
אין לך אוויר, קצת אוויר צריך בספייר.
יש לי pump.
לא, אתה יכול לנסוע כבודו.
תודה. That's what took me so long to get here. I had to pump it 5 times on the way. That was exciting. Good exercise. Good workout.
What is the fruit of the ginger tree? Is there such a thing?
I don't know if there is. I don't think there is. Not that I know of. But it is nevertheless, it is certainly not the fruit. Whether there's another fruit or not, I don't know.
It doesn't grow in a tree, though, does it? I thought it's a root.
No, it's these little bushes. Little bushes. You can look it up.
No, just reading this seed, it seemed to allude that maybe it could be come from a tree, but I don't know.
Ginger plantations in Uganda. Wow, they get pretty big in Uganda.
אני השתמשתי בכלים שלי, כי אין לך את זה שמסתובב, אני לא מצאתי אותו.
אוקיי, תודה רבה.
הג'ק הוא שמה, אבל זה שמסתובב לא מצאתי.
תודה רבה.
גם את שלי לא מצאתי, השתמשתי במספריים. אחרי שסיימתי עם שלי, אני רואה בדלת דבוק לו מאחורה.
It does have some kind of berry on it.
ברוך השם, זה berry, לא? ברוך השם.
Beehive ginger.
Oh yeah, maybe it's like a rose, like we talked about yesterday. Like rose hips are actually some kind of berries, but maybe there's something also on this ginger.
Yeah, I don't really know. But even if it doesn't, the fact is it is not the fruit. Whether it has another fruit or not, I'm not sure. Okay.
The pickle ginger instead of sushi.
Right. That's an interesting question.
What would be the reason the normal way used to be eaten before? Right? Most people eat the ginger with sushi.
I understand, but is it normal to eat on its own? That's my question. People eat it on its own?
Yeah, in between.
I don't like that at all.
You're
My
supposed
mother eats
to.
it whenever she gets it. Maybe other people don't, but I shouldn't take a ride from my mom.
What do you say? People eat it?
Are experts in sushi. Typically, they eat a little piece of this between different sushi, so just to
Cleanse the palate. Okay?
I mean, they give it. Only when are you eating it? They give it. Everyone gives ginger.
Yeah, but if it's made to eat as only to give something else, and it's not normal to eat separately, then it would be shehakol. Like spices, you know what I'm saying? Spices, which are made to spice something else and are never eaten separately, you would say shehakol, if they're edible. If they're not even edible, you wouldn't say any bracha.
The wasabi, the green stuff that you put in the sushi.
Right.
That's like a condiment. And
All right.
the ginger is not supposed to be put together with it.
Okay. If it's normal to eat it separately, then it's hadam, like fresh ginger. Is that what it is? Is it fresh ginger or is it dried? Or pickled? No, it's pickled. It's pickled. All right. Okay. Okay. 22. Chal beis. Again. Chal beis.
So the ginger, that's they mix spices that you use in the condiment. That's Shehakol at that point.
Yeah, if you eat a spice, which is not normal to eat separately, if you eat it separately, it's Shehakol. If it's an edible thing. Things that are not edible separately, you wouldn't make any bracha. Like a pepper. You wouldn't make any bracha if you eat a peppercorn. It's not normal. Amen Ramamorim. Bemine besamim. Betavlin. Shedak mlechel leitigim bedvash al deter besukar dvar machem shechashu benikr. When do you say a bracha on the actual item that is candied? Talking about you took ginger. Ginger. Zangvil.
What's the question again?
How do you say ginger in Hebrew? In rabbinic Hebrew, it's zangvil, but I don't know what it's called in modern Hebrew.
You eat sushi.
The red one?
The red
Rabbi?
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ginger.
Ginger. באמת?
אני לא אוכל את זה, בגלל זה.
Okay.
אבל עכשיו אני יודע מה זה.
Maybe
Okay.
Ginger says
The red one?
Ginger? Okay.
זה תבלין...
Bekitzur, so this is something that is eaten on its own as a dish. And therefore, when you candy it, when you add honey, it's hadam.
Sliding very tiny one? That's not the sauce. This is something else. Slicing like this. Okay.
No, it would be hadam. Hadam. Because it is considered something normal to eat separately if you spice it up. The same thing applies to pepper. Notice people I don't really see people eating candied peppers. Peppercorns? Candied peppercorns?
I don't think so. I think it's not in our culture, maybe other cultures.
I haven't seen it. Cloves, he says they also used to make some kind of candied cloves. And those were therefore considered the main dish, the main thing in the mixture of the honey and those items. Was a tafshel lo iker. Vein ha'achila nikras al shem hatavan klal. U'cheilu ein aman l'achila klal. Then there are spices that are never eaten as a separate item. You never find them as the main ingredient of anything. Without the word sushi, just ginger. So,
But this, okay.
just ginger. Kegoin sitvar, like cinnamon. You never eat cinnamon on its own. Ein shem pri olav. It does not have the name pri. You cannot say hadam on it. You can't say priya hadam or priya. It's because it's not a pri. Its whole only way you consume it is as a secondary item. So it does not have the chashivas of a pri. It doesn't have the importance of a pri. Even if you did prepare it, shehakol, yes, it's edible, but because it's not normally eaten as a
Salt also shehakol, if you want to take shots of salt.
yeah, if it's not very, I think he even mentioned it here.
So if we do a cinnamon.
One second, no, he doesn't mention it here, but I saw it somewhere. If it's not a very strong salt that people sometimes eat it, yeah, then it's shehakol. Sorry?
Do a cinnamon tea, going back to 20, with water, and it's like a medicinal thing. People, I think the cinnamon lowers the blood pressure and all that.
You're not eating cinnamon. You're not eating the cinnamon. A tea is always going to be shahakol.
So if we mix this movement with speed or water.
Yeah, but no. There it's pieces of nutmeg. It's crushed. Actual pieces. If it's only the liquid, if you liquefy it or if you just flavor a liquid, it's going to be shahakol anyway. We're going to learn later more about fruit soup and all that sort of thing, but in practice, it's shehakol.
The cinnamon is just flavor, right? Give it flavor.
Yeah, nobody eats cinnamon on its own.
Yeah, only soup I sometimes I give it.
Yeah. So, even if he personally made it edible on its own. For example, some people will roast the cinnamon and eat it for a refuah. Notice how he says a refuah. Because to eat it on its own, nobody does that. The point is, the it's not planted with the intention of eating it at all. Rather to put it into the tashel to flavor something else. If you remember, in the very beginning of this parak, we said that something that is not the intention when you're planting it to eat it, even if it's edible, it's neither ha'etz nor ha'adama, but rather shehakol. Right? We said the main fruit of a tree is ha'etz. A secondary item on the tree, which you expect it to eat, but that's not the way you planted it, is ha'adama. And an item that's edible, but nobody eats it, not expected to be eaten, is shehakol. So these spices are not expected to be eaten on their own. Expected to be eaten. But when they're eaten, they're not eaten in a way that needs a bracha ever. Because they're only spicing something else, or they're tough to something else. To eat it on its own is not expected. So now you made it edible, okay, gets a bracha, but not a pre, only shehakol. Okay? Ve'en tzorach loimer. How much more so if you mixed it with honey or with sugar? Now, it's even on its own, it's not going to get a bracha. Even if you prepared it, cooked it in such a way that it's edible, it doesn't make a bracha. How much more so if you mixed it with with sugar or honey, in which case it's not going to be considered the main thing. It's going to be considered a flavoring. If you make a candy with cinnamon, it's not going to be considered candied cinnamon. It's going to be considered cinnamon candy because cinnamon is a flavoring. Cinnamon is not a main ingredient. So you would for sure make shehakol. The same thing with dill and caraway. Because it's not usual to eat them. The purpose of these is to flavor something else, even though they are edible. The Mefarshim point out they are edible, but people don't eat them. People use them as a spice. Even if you cook them separately or eat them separately, which it is edible, it's not like anything wrong. Nevertheless, you only say shehakol simply because that's not a normal way to consume it. Ginger was, maybe it still is, I don't know, because I don't follow what people eat, but ginger was considered normal to eat fresh. People used to eat fresh ginger, and people used to eat candied ginger. They still do eat candied ginger that you can buy in the supermarket. So therefore, it's not considered a strange thing. Whereas all of these spices, they are never the main ingredient of anything. They're only eaten as a spice. So even if you prepare them in a way that they are the main ingredient and they are edible, because that's not the normal way to eat it, it's not considered a pre. However, if they roast ginger for medicine, then you say Adama, because ginger, we said people do eat separately. You're doing it for medicine doesn't change the fact that it's edible and people eat it, so it's Adama.
Sometimes we're getting for in a synagogue sushi and they put ginger, you know, as I call it as צרצות אדמה.
Ginger?
ginger. שבא עם הסושי עם
כן.
אבל מה זה?
כנראה כן, אדמה.
והסושי זה אורז בפנים, אז זה מזונות, נכון?
כן, אבל יש גם דג, מה אתה עושה מהדג?
דג שהכל?
דג שהכל.
So I have to check and first I'll do שמזונות and then שהכל after, right?
He doesn't even list ginger. I guess nobody eats it. He doesn't even bother listing it.
I like this. I like this. My kids doesn't like it.
What?
You should have flavor.
It's usually for flavor.
Put it in soup or you put it in
Yeah.
tea or
I wonder if he has sushi. When he wrote the sefer, I wonder if they were eating sushi already.
Horseradish would be the same as ginger or as
Sushi is not listed in Rabbi Bodner's book. Sorry. Didn't make it in. What do you say?
horseradish.
Horseradish with beets?
Actually, horseradish is a root like the ginger.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when you prepare it with beets or just on its own.
We do prepare horseradish for the root.
For
Yes, we
Pesach?
just grind it for Pesach, yeah.
If you eat it plain without anything, no bracha.
No problem.
No bracha. Alter Rebbe says it's not edible.
Wow.
horseradish?
Horseradish, yeah.
Like the purple stuff?
Purple stuff is an ingredients, beets, whatever. Talking about plain horseradish, white, unflavored, unpickled, on anything. The Rebbe says it's not edible. It's too sharp. People don't eat it.
It is very sharp.
People don't eat it. Now, you want to eat it for a mitzvah, that's fine. But that's not called a no. It's not the benefit.
Even though by the Seder we have in mind Hadama for it.
That's because we're having lettuce. If you're not having lettuce, don't bother having in mind Adama. It's not going to help you.
But what would be the point of having in mind Hadama if it doesn't cover it anyways?
For the lettuce.
But it should we shouldn't have the maror in mind because there's no bracha on it.
You have the lettuce in mind. Benji wants to know where we are. We're at the end of 6.
Oh, the lettuce maror. Got it.
Lettuce mar. You only have the lettuce mar in mind. You don't have to bother having the charesis. Sorry, the chrein mar in mind because it doesn't need a bracha.
Got it.
All right. We continue and we say, my friends, with chapter 7. Moving right on to the bracha of Shehakol.
Just in the case of sushi, what was the last answer? Take it apart and make it or do you just make it?
It seems like you shake it apart or make a bracha on the rice and the fish. It doesn't seem to me like you have to make a bracha on the little pieces of avocado and cucumber and thing. It seems to me that those are like flavorings. But it seems to me, unless a person has a clear ikar in his mind what he's eating it for, and the other thing is a tafel in his mind, you go by his mind. But I think they're both important. I don't think there is a clear ikar and tafel there.
Does this whole din of Mizonos having Tikifas that it does rice?
No, it doesn't apply to the rice.
All this is Ikar.
Yeah, it's a regular kantafel. We don't give any special chashivas to rice. It's mazonos, but it's not automatically the ikar.
Rabbi Roberto Scher is a graduate from this shir.
Yes.
He used to, whenever he went to restaurants and he was gonna have sushi, he would bring like a little Ziploc bag of croutons with him.
Indeed. I remember all about it. Roberto Scherer, David Scherer, was a student in this class. So his minhag is he's a big sushi guy. He takes a little Ziploc bag of croutons whenever he goes out to eat. Because Chabad doesn't make mazonos and rice. It's a suffix, mazonos adama. So he has, and a lot of these restaurants don't even carry mazonos. Gluten-free restaurants, whatever, sushi and whatever else. But so he has this mazonos ready with him. And he'll say adama and whatever else, and Shehakol on the fish, and you're good to go.
And rice and sushi is that mazonos, right?
Rice, the Mishnah Berurah says mazonos.
Yes,
Good Yosef says mazonos also, but the Alter Rebbe says safek mazonot, safek adama.
So that's why he's bringing in a Ziploc.
What if it's an avocado roll? Whole middle is avocado.
Interesting.
Yeah. The sushi, they
Cucumber rolls also.
Yeah,
Sweet potato rolls.
interesting.
It's not only.
Sushi is a very genetic thing. There's the ingredient they have sashimi. I mean,
Yeah.
the typical roll. That's what it's called.
But they put something between the avocado. I saw it. The avocado or it's something else.
Seaweed.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Seaweed.
I don't know the answer.
What would the rub do? Give you a plate of sushi.
It would seem that if before you made the bracha, you separated it out, and on your plate you had separate rice and separate avocado, separate cucumbers, there's nothing wrong with saying mazonos and eights and adama. Avocado is eights, cucumbers adama. The point is that these are not cooked together. When something is cooked together, it becomes one. So,
Some of them are
The fried ones.
oh yeah,
when you have it in the four roll, they put the whole thing in the deep fryer.
Ah,
You really only deep fries the outside most.
right.
Well, the rice, the tuna also gets cooked.
Yeah,
When you fry
Inside
it,
of the
when you fry it, the tuna inside.
inside,
It's not gonna be red. It's gonna be
really?
cooked.
So everything else gets cooked also? And I guess it
Because
does.
of the heat.
Right.
It's still not mixed. It's put together.
If there's no issue, just
No,
separate.
but when something is cooked, it becomes one even if it's not mixed. But if there's still no ikar and tafel, you could still say two brachas. Actually, no, I think you go by the roiv. I think you go by the roiv. If it's cooked and there's no ikar and tafel, I think you go by the roiv, actually. Yeah. So then it's probably rice. Probably there's more rice than the
Let's say a regular roll,
inside.
a cucumber roll, or a avocado roll.
Yeah.
So there's no issue by me separating, or a regular roll, it's not temporal, which has fish and avocado and cucumber and a piece of fish inside. So there's no issue with separating it and making a bracha on every little thing?
No.
As long as it's completely separate on your plate, now you want to start eating.
Exactly.
There's no issue. So why does everyone just feel like, you know, make more brachas? Okay, you're not maybe mechuyev to do that. Let's say. I can do that and it wouldn't be an issue. Bracha she'ein tzricha.
I don't think there's any issue with bracha she'ein tzricha by a tafel hamalafis. We said there's three kinds of tafels. There's tafel hamiyuchad, when it becomes one, either because it's cooked together or it's crushed together. It's, you know what I'm saying, or like very diced, very small. Tafel hamiyuchad, we said it's a shayla bracha she'ein tzricha or bracha latal, because it's one thing. So how do you separate it into two brachas? But tafel hamalafis, where it's one on top of the other, so it's not really, yeah, but you're eating it together as ikar and tafel. If you separate it, it's not a tafel at this moment. It's not a bracha she'ein tzricha. So once you say the bracha and the ikar, then it's already a shayla.
Rebbe, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Or
So tafel is something not combined.
sorry, one more time.
I'm sorry. Is a tafel malafis is something that's not combined together, like it's like a cookie
Exactly.
with a cream in the middle, like.
Exactly. You're eating it together, but it's not one thing. Now, the cookie with the cream, clearly the cream is truffle. There's no suffix about it. So there's no necessity
Okay.
to separate it out. But I'm saying whenever there's a doubt, if you're not sure, there's nothing wrong with separating it out and saying bracha separately.
So if we're separating, then we're also gonna have the noise, the semen. What do we do with the semen?
You don't have to separate. Something that's clearly a tuffle, you don't have to separate. I'm saying you're going to make bracha on the fish anyway. You're going to cover the seaweed. Fish, sushi.
The nori is algae.
I'm saying, but it's shehakol.
Sure.
Algae is shehakol.
The ocean. Leaves from the ocean.
All ocean products are shehakol.
Regardless if vegetable, animal, whatever.
All shehakol. Yeah. They don't grow from the ground.
You can see that.
No. There's no roots. There's no roots.
It's true.
Sorry?
Interesting, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So a seaweed salad, then it's shehakol.
Oh, sorry, see?
They sell it. It's like a shredded nori. Shredded. Seaweed salad. Exactly.
Sorry?
We have it in every restaurant that sells sushi, it sells seaweed salad. Have it for shakil, have everything. So that
Why is mine black and this is green?
it's all good.
Mine is black, but my seaweed black.
No, that's the one that doesn't nori. That's the leaves.
All right, my friends, let's get going. Zion. I'll call Davar Shein Gedulim Menoretz. Parak Zion.
Oh, carrots.
No. Parak Zion, here we go. I'll call Davar Shein Gedulim Menoretz. On any item that does not grow from the ground. Kegoin Besar Behema Chayev Oif. For example, the meat of a domestic wild animal or bird. Dogim V'cholo Gvino Veitzim. Fish, milk, cheese, eggs, umayim umelach udvash. Here's where I saw it about salt. I point out that he's talking about salt that's not very salty. Different levels of saltiness, but a type of salt that people might sometimes eat. Some people eat salt at the end of the meal. You know about that minhag? Akol achilascha achol melach. It says in the Gemara. Yeah, at the end of the meal, to eat salt. And it talks about which finger you're supposed to eat it with. Not with this finger because it's bad for this, not with another finger, it's bad for that. Only with, I remember, only one of the fingers. Exactly. I saw one time, I saw somebody actually doing it. But anyway.
And what does bring it to you when it does that?
I think it's health, some kind of health.
Health?
Not because
What about hydroponically grown?
Let's see. I don't think so at the end. I'm sorry, what?
What about hydroponically grown vegetables? Since they're not grown in the ground, would they be shehakol?
There are opinions that say it's shehakol because they are not pre-ha'adama or pre-ha'etz. But there are other opinions. I think of Vosner who says that because the water is fortified with all the same minerals as if it was the ground, so we still treat it like the ground. But basically, because it's a doubt, it's better to just say shehakol. However, he does bring down in the book by Rabbi Bodner that sometimes the water is connected to the ground. It actually grows in water, but the water underneath it, there's actual ground, actual earth. And then you would say, Ha'etz or Adama, depending on what it is.
Well,
That's what he brings down from Shem Zalman.
meaning it's just the air is the ground. Meaning instead of air, it's water. So the ground is the ground, and it's
Top of that is water,
That's it.
and then the roots only reach into the water, but because it's connected to the ground through the water, he considers it as if it's in the ground. Hydroponics, yeah.
Up north, next to Orlando, there's the water coming from the mountain. מתוך האדמה. So anything growing over there, it's a different plastic.
No, same thing. No problem. We're here. Okay.
So what do we find?
I mean, it seems like it's better to say Shehakol because it's a doubt. So Shehakol covers everything. Okay.
Are there things sold in the store that are hydroponically grown, or is that more expensive?
I don't know.
Like, are they just selling us these things as a tomato, but I'm buying hydroponically grown tomato? Or would those be just more expensive? Like I would
I don't really know.
It says that it's more expensive.
I've never seen hydroponically grown vegetables. So that's what
I
I'm
guess
saying.
hydroponics on a spaceship would be Shehakol for sure.
There's no ground.
What's
He does bring, by the way, that sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, are all grown hydroponically. He says the bracha on alfalfa is Shehakol.
What, recently?
As of the printing of this book,
All alfalfa sprouts, I think announcement.
alfalfa sprouts are Shehakol. That's what Rabbi Bodner says. Latest printing is 1996.
Wow.
Any sprouts of Shehakol?
96. He says alfalfa sprouts are Shehakol. I'm sorry?
Any of these sprouts are Shehakol because it's the way it's grown?
He says all alfalfa sprouts are Shehakol. Other sprouts, one second, let me just look it up. Ooh, I had it before. 391. Alfalfa sprouts are grown completely out of the ground. The bracha of alfalfa sprouts is Shehakol. Fresh or canned bean sprouts, Shehakol. They too are grown out of the ground. Bean sprouts and alfalfa sprouts. All right? At least you learned one new thing tonight.
But these Brussels sprouts are,
Brussels sprouts, he says, are Adam.
yeah, no, but they're very infested. You buy like, go there to sell them frozen. That's it.
I
You have
mean,
to check those frozen.
I don't think so. I think Boydek plants them in special greenhouses and stuff. That's the whole
It says in the
purpose.
package, you can check this as a permanent special place.
That's the whole purpose. I mean, some of the packages will say that you have to wash it, but not check it, because they say something could have flown in afterwards. So wash it just as an extra precaution, but then you don't have to actually check it.
Is the rub eat corn on the cob?
Yeah. No, we check the shell, check the green thing to see if there's no, if it looks like rotten, then could be worms in it. If it has like brown,
No bugs.
I'm saying, oh, you mean what bugs?
There's yellow bugs. A lot of folks can write that it's completely infested. I just want to know if it knows every place and every single city's Or
Mm.
56 says that too.
All right.
I don't know why you said such a thing. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. I don't know where my wife got that method of checking it. That's what she heard, that you check the husk and see if there's like brown on it. That points to worminess. But the yellow little mites is like, it could be yellow mites, corn colored mites. So yeah, that really wouldn't work for that. I'm not really sure. What does the OU say? I wonder what the OU says. OU is pretty strict on checking vegetables. What does he say? Okay, maybe just post it on the chat and people can read it. Thank you. Okay. The same thing applies to truffles and mushrooms. Even though they do grow from the ground. Excuse me. As opposed to everything else that we mentioned before, which do not grow from the ground, truffles and mushrooms do grow from the ground. However, although they grow on the ground, they don't grow from the ground itself. They grow from the moisture on the ground, which is why they can also grow on wood and on metal and on anything else. All they need is moisture to grow. And therefore, they're not called pre-Adama, rather Shehakol. Okay, now we're going to go back to a concept that we mentioned before, which is the concept of Nishtana L'Greyasa, when something changes for the worse. So we said it gets downgraded, and it goes down in a bracha. So we're going to continue along that line here. Anything that was changed in a way that made it worse, it gets downgraded from its special, unique bracha, and it goes to the general bracha of all foods, which is Shehakol. So it used to be considered bread, for example. Now that it's kind of spoiled, moldy, most people wouldn't eat it. It's still edible, but barely. So it doesn't have the chashivas of bread anymore. You say a bracha like you say in any edible food, Shehakol, but not the bracha for bread, because people don't eat it as bread. It's not important.
You say something that are already get upgraded to Adama? Just before they get upgraded.
That's a good question. When do we say Shtan Lagresa goes to Hadama? When do we say it goes to Shehakol?
We studied that yesterday. In Suffolk, Rabbi.
Actually, it went to Shehakol before also. It went to Shehakol before also. If you look back in Parak Vav Halacha Yud, if something was edible raw, it's not normally eaten cooked. You cooked it, and it's a Shtan L'Greyasa. It's not as good. Cooked cucumbers, cooked lettuce, cooked things that are not normally cooked. It doesn't taste as good. It's Shehakol. I mean, those things are Hadama anyway. But I'm saying even a fruit that's normally eaten raw and you cooked it, I don't know, watermelon or something. It's not normal to eat cooked. If you cook it, it goes to, well, watermelon's Hadama too, sorry. Banana. I don't know how it tastes cooked. But if it tastes worse, plantains are supposed to be cooked.
Banana cake.
Banana cake is something else, but yeah, it's something else. So, but I'm saying it's Shehakol. Shtan al-Grace is Shehakol. Did we have any examples of the Shtan al-Grace of being just Hadama? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Said if we cooked unripe, something unripe, right? That was the case?
If that's because it never got. No, I think it was Shehakol too. It was Shehakol too. Pretty sure.
So anything Adama cooked and it changed the look of it is Shehakol.
Yeah, if you took an unripe fruit that was not edible and you made it edible by cooking or by mixing in flavoring, it's Shehakol. It does not have the chashivas of even a pre-hadam.
If it doesn't change the look of it, then you can see still Adama after cooking.
זה לא הפרי.
Oh, okay.
לא הדרך לאכול את זה, זה לא נקרא פרי עדיין. Not everything cooked. Talking about things that were not edible raw, because they weren't ripe. Then you cooked them, you made them edible, that's Shehakol.
Is the onions? What was it with the onions?
Whose story do you want?
No, the onions were Shehakol, I put them.
Onion shades of bracha, what was it?
In the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe says raw onions are Shehakol, cooked onions are Hadama. In the Seder, he says the opposite. Raw onions are Hadama, because people eat them with a salad or whatever. But cooked, they don't taste as good. Shehakol.
Why the switch?
I don't know. Is it that things changed within, it was a few decades. Things changed so quickly from the way people ate it in Russia, I don't know. But the Mishnah Berurah doesn't agree. The Mishnah Berurah says raw onions, if you eat them on their own, it's Shehakol. Because it's not normal to eat it on its own. It's only normal to eat it with something else. So, yeah.
Obviously when you do it.
When you eat it in a way that's normal, then it's a dama, yeah. Okay.
So there's no case to downgrade from Ayetz to Adam.
The secondary product is hadam. So grape leaves, the peels, secondary.
No, you're never gonna downgrade
The item itself, I don't know if the item itself ever changes from Eitz to Adam. I don't think so. I don't remember such a case. Okay, Kegoin, for example, in the middle of a base, a pas sheipsha, bread that became moldy. The tafshel shenishtan atzuras v'neskalkol ma'at, a dish that starts to look different and funny. You smell it, not quite sure, it's a little bit off. You could still sneak it in, but it's borderline. Then you say Shehakol, because it's still edible. Barely, but it's still
No
edible.
matter what it is.
Yes,
like chole.
whatever,
No
anything.
matter what you're eating, if it's something, if it's okay.
If it's borderline, if it's already changed a little bit and it's barely edible, it's like Shas Chak edible, then it's Shehakol.
But it still looks like chole and it still tastes like chole. And you're getting benefit of it.
It doesn't taste quite like chocolate. It tastes a little bit off. That's the whole point. It tastes a little bit off, so not everybody would eat it.
Sour,
Yeah, exactly. It's starting to, look cloudy on the top. You know what I'm saying? Like the experiments in the refrigerator.
why you're allowed to eat something? You eat something?
It's like, that's the whole point. He's not telling you from health perspective.
No.
He's saying if it's the beginning of that, it's it's just beginning to turn in such a way that you could still get by eating it. That's what he's about to say. If it's totally off and normal people don't eat it, there's no bracha because it's not normal to eat. But if it's just the beginning where you're not quite sure and whatever, that's when it's shehakol. Still edible, but it's not a chosh of a way to eat it.
Sometimes there's like a bread that, like in the corner or something, has like a little piece of mold. So if you rip it off, it would still be like a perfectly piece of bread.
Exactly.
But is that considered the first stage?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that would be shehakol.
Wow.
That's actually a machaya. We should start something new. Nobody likes to wash nowadays. Everybody wants to be able to just eat without washing. So wait till the bread turns a bit moldy, not too moldy, just a bit. Then you say shehakol, machaya.
We'll start a business.
I think that trend is going to catch on. אם זה קצת מעופש, קצת מעופש. לא ממש.
שים אותו לילה אחד בחוץ, הוא גמר, הוא יבש.
זהו. אם זה מעופש ממש, אז אין ברכה, כי זה לא ראוי לאכילה. אבל אם זה רק בהתחלה, קצת, טיפה שמה, טיפה שמה. סלימים זה משהו אחר, אני מדבר על מעופש. So, yeah.
And if milk spoils?
Exactly. I'm sorry?
And if milk is like on the verge of spoiling?
Then it's still shehakol. If it's still drinkable, it's shehakol.
But its
no, you
state
can't
got
downgrade
worse.
shehakol.
But its state got worse.
No, that's if it's not edible. It's still edible, it's shehakol. I'm sorry?
Its state got worse, so shouldn't the bracha be downgraded?
No, the point is that any bracha that you're making on something chashuv, it gets downgraded. But it can't go below shehakol because it's still edible. It's not a chashuv way to eat it, but it's still edible. So you have to thank Hashem for the benefit of eating it.
What happens
Got it.
if it's downgraded? You don't like it. You make a bracha, no? You know, you're eating it.
If it's still edible, even though you don't like it, you make a bracha. I know you said something about not making that bracha, so I don't know. You said that you not to make a bracha on something you don't like. You said that about hard drinks. You quoted somebody. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with that opinion. I didn't see it inside. I don't know. But the pashtus says if it's something that is edible, even if you personally don't like it, you should say a bracha. That's
Could be what I saw, just making sense of it. You shouldn't.
Shouldn't drink it.
If you have an orange juice and a vodka that you can't stand,
Make a
you'd probably
bracha.
get a better idea to make a good
Right.
shot.
Right. That's anyway a chaviv. It's a chaviv.
Right, but usually, right. Yeah, usually ways you take vodka, orange juice.
Right.
Yeah, if you're making a bracha.
Right.
We're gonna learn about chavit?
Absolutely. V'chein yain. V'chein parashim something moldy bread that's too moldy, no bracha. V'chein yain shech mitzad shemehem nemnom b'shtes mechem mitzusa mivarchim lav shakni midvar. So too. No, the first door there.
No, the lactose.
Go to the other door and get it.
There's two doors there.
Yeah, next time you go over there, table, chair.
One of them is okay. Point is that wine that has turned into vinegar, and most people do not drink it as wine from that point on. Now, vinegar is still considered drinkable if it's not very strong.
After it came up, I think.
Okay, v'masachem is gomer. If it became complete vinegar, it's so strong to the extent that when you throw it on the ground, it bubbles. Now, nobody drinks such strong vinegar. But if it's just in the beginning of its vinegarness, if it's in the beginning stages and it's still drinkable, then you say Shehakol. Sorry.
Those marble?
Yeah, why you have? I don't know. Chanuk's away. The Dishu guys are away.
Rebbe, I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you take there's a new trend now that people like have this organic vinegar, like a tablespoon, and to lose weight and whatnot for dietary purposes.
What?
There's a trend now that people are taking like a spoon of organic vinegar.
He says that vinegar, if it's not very strong, is Shehakol.
Okay, okay.
It's not very strong, it's Shehakol. Because some people drink vinegar. But that's
for like, but that they drink it for hana. This is for like maybe just to lose weight or whatever.
Yeah, still, because some people drink it. Therefore, you say a bracha even if it's for medicinal purposes.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Old wine would be.
Old wine?
Spoiled
wine, exactly. That's what we're talking about. Even strong vinegar, if you mix it with water, it becomes shehakol, if it's drinkable. Let's say you cook the fruits in water and you made it into a drink. Even beer, which is made out of grain, and grain is a very important food. Nevertheless, once it's a liquid form, it is no longer ha'itz or mezainis, but rather shehakol.
What about compote?
Now, compote is ha'itz for sure because you have pieces in there. But we're going to see later that if you have a dish that is fruit soup, where you have fruit and you have soup, so then that's a very complicated halach. The soup maybe is ha'itz. Maybe even the soup is ha'itz. Not just the fruit, but maybe even the soup. But here we're talking about where you just are making a drink. You're not cooking the fruit for the purpose of eating the fruit. You're just making a drink out of it.
Is the fruit still in there when you drink it?
No.
Oh.
No. You cooked it for the purpose of making a drink, and you're drinking it. That's shehakol. If you cooked it for the purpose of eating the fruit, and now you're just drinking the fruit, the liquid of that soup, some say it's ha'itz. We're going to get to that later. Okay, yain sherei chacham v'sutam yain. If the wine still tastes like wine, but the smell is a little bit off. The smell is like vinegar. Adayin shem yain alav. It's still considered wine. Then shanas brachas, the bracha hasn't changed. But if it already tastes like vinegar, even though it smells like wine, you say shehakol like we said before. Moving right along, yain mavushim bracha l'ma'per gefen. Cooked wine is what bracha? Even though it's not the same quality, which is why they didn't pour it on the mizbeach, and lahavdil, that's why it doesn't become yain nesach, because they also lahavdil didn't pour it for their getchkas. But the fact is, it's still considered wine, and you say bar pergef. The same thing, wine that you mixed in honey and pepper. They used to do this in the olden days. They used to add these flavorings. The reason they used to do it is because the wine was not a high quality wine. So to flavor it, to give it a better flavor, they would add these other flavorings. And even though it changes the taste. It doesn't change worse, changes better. They added these flavorings to make it taste better, not worse. Therefore, it's still hagafen.
What about grape juice?
Grape juice is hagafen for sure. Why not?
Because it's not wine.
Still pre-hagafen.
I think I remember in Australia, Rabbi Cohen said it might be it's a little more complicated.
I don't think so. I think there is a question if it's wine for Kiddush. But I think even those that say that it's not wine for Kiddush will agree that it's still pre-hagafen.
Mm-hmm.
It is still the fruit of the grapevine. It has the reason that you might not consider it wine for Kiddush is because it's not yisamach, yain yisamach levav enosh. It doesn't have the potential to gladden a person because it's not alcoholic and it can never become alcoholic. So that would be the argument that it shouldn't be counted as wine. I mean, most boys can say that it is wine for the purpose of Kiddush and Havdalah and whatever, but some say it's not. But I don't think they dispute that it's hagafen.
Yeah, I think it was mitzat Kiddush.
Yeah.
Those Romegane wines or lychee wines, whatever.
Shehakol.
I think those the Rishonim that I saw in Shulchan once, they said that if it's cooked, it's not even shah. It's not even good.
Oh yeah. Oh, the same Rishonim that say it's not good for Kiddush say it's not hagafen. I think the Ramban says it's not good for Kiddush.
Is that Romegane wine for Kiddush?
I'm gonna why no. I mean, it could be it's Chamar Medina. Yeah, it could be it's the same as beer or other alcoholic beverages, but it's not wine.
What makes me a Torah native when I went from grape juice to wine? Can I make a Torah native?
Interesting shayla. Interesting shayla. I don't know. Normally you have to go from wine to wine. You're saying is grape juice baguette or wine for the purpose of their native. I don't know. Yeah. No, he's talking about if you start drinking grape juice, and then you drink wine in the same meal, so you're going up to a high level wine, quotation marks. Is that good enough for a toiva native, the bracha you say when you drink better wine? Not really sure. Okay. Vav. Here we have a very practical halacha. You want to mix wine with something else. You want to make a new concoction. Wine with apple juice. Let's see how it goes. If it's mixed to the extent that it ruins the taste of the wine, doesn't taste like wine anymore, in the world, you can only say Shehakol.
Even if it's right?
Even if it's right, yeah. It changed for the worse. If it's not roiv, we're going to say anyway you can't say hagafen. This is not hagafen, it's a majority of something else. But even if it is roiv, but if it tastes worse, it's called nishtan al greisa. If it mixes in with something else that does not ruin the wine, we follow the majority now. We're not talking about water. Water, it could be that it's still hagafen anyway. We're going to see in a moment.
Yeah. I was just at a bris and they made like a half orange juice, half wine, and people were asking what the bracha is.
And what was the answer?
What the rabbi there said Shehakol.
Maybe it's nishtan al greisa. Maybe it didn't taste like wine anymore. Which bris?
I don't know. His first name was Freddie.
Okay.
It's twins.
Twins. That's what I was going to ask. I know Alon Razla's
Yeah.
grandchildren. He had twin grandchildren.
Yeah, he was the Moil.
I guess it was the son, daughter, I don't know. But he was the Moil?
It was for someone in Harbor Islands community, but yeah, he was the Moil.
Grandchildren, yeah?
No, his son had two twins like a day before, but it was for a different bris.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought his sons were this morning.
Oh, I don't know.
Pretty sure they were. Maybe he did two twins in one day. That would be nice. Yeah, go ahead. So the rabbi said it's Shehakol.
If the taste is subtle of the wine, you still have to say Ha'gafen.
If the taste still tastes like wine, then it would be Hagafen. But if it tastes not quite like wine, if it tastes off, then it's Shehakol.
It primarily tasted like orange juice, but the wine added something to it.
No, that's Shehakol. It tastes like wine. It has to be a majority wine and taste like wine.
Okay.
And then you can say Hagafen. Otherwise, it's Shehakol. Okay.
Mimosa is a drink that's very common. It's half that champagne and half orange juice. So I was making an opinion that you should take a little bit of wine, Zebra, and take a little bit of orange juice, Zebra, and then drink the
Okay. I hear. Yain shemzoga b'mayim. Wine that was mixed with water. Afilu hamayim him aroiv. Even if the water is the majority. You say agafen, because the difference by the water is that the water has no taste. There has to be two conditions, actually three conditions. Number one, he says, is that it's such a strong wine that it still has the taste of wine when you add this amount of water. That's condition number one. Number two is that it's normal for people to drink it with this amount of water added. If not, his opinion is nullified to the majority. And finally, if the wine is only 1 in 6 compared to the water, that there's 6 times the amount of water, so it's basically 1/7. Cannot say basically, it has to be 1/6. It cannot be less than 1/6 of wine. In addition to which, it has to taste like wine, and it has to be normal for people to drink it as wine in this area. Now, I did see in the Akut Yosef, he's very strict about it, and he says you cannot make a guffin if it's more than 50% water. I don't know the Shitas, the Rishayim, where he gets it from, but it's totally different than Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe says you can have 1 in 6 wine, and it's still a guffin, as long as it tastes like wine. Sorry?
16.6%.
Very good. If it tastes like wine. But he says it has to be 51% wine. Big difference. Zayin, in V'ochem Alamayim Shakal Nivad Rodef Neim L'Ber Nefesh Rabbis Lachem L'Kshoyse L'Tzmoy. This is a very important halacha. You do not make shehakol and water and burn nefashos after unless you drink it for thirst. But if you drink it in order to help you swallow something that's not going down, if you make no bracha before or after. Because a person does not get pleasure from drinking water only when he is thirsty. But other drinks, okay, 1 second, it's very important halacha. If you drink water and you're not thirsty, there is no bracha. Because water has no taste. And if you're thirsty, then you make a bracha simply because you enjoy thirst-quenching aspect of the water. But if you're not thirsty, you make no bracha.
So if I have a cookies in my mouth and it's dry and I want to drink because it's dry in my mouth. So it's no bracha for that?
It could be it's considered like you're thirsty. Dry is like thirsty.
No. I mean, it's the cake. It's dry and it's not. I mean, it's like it's. Sometimes you can you cannot. So the cake is dry and you have to drink something because of that, not because you want to drink. So Shehakol also. But yeah, I have food in my mouth because I cannot stop it because it's already.
לפעמים יש.
חמש אנשים. If you bring 5 people. לא, בסדר.
If we had kept Yoel and Raphael and called Michael, we got one of these guys. We could have done it.
They don't want it wrap. You cross. They said they move all the chair from there for us.
Ice, with ice.
Why are you eating it?
Maybe for thirst or could be just for
Chill. Huh?
yeah for ramen. I do eat a lot of ice. It's a way of eating without calories.
If you're not thirsty, it would seem that you don't make a bracha.
Rabbi, my question was, if the cake is in the mouth, barely you can breathe. How can you blast it the water? Because it's dry, and if you try to blast, it's a dangerous. Like it's called ugat chenek, So you can drink a little bit, so you can breathe, and then you can do the blasting after that. But Vodo said the mouth should be empty from.
Yeah, that's true.
I cannot be empty because the cake is dry.
Here's an interesting chiddush. פה יש חידוש מעניין. Let's say you're drinking mineral water, and it has a taste, but it's not like a good taste. It just has a taste. The mineral, you can taste the minerals.
Like this one.
מה זה שמה?
זה...
לא, שמה יש לה lemon.
אבל אני I don't feel it. Just...
למה?
Most of those flavor waters, it's not flavors.
Yes, lemon, yes.
If you close your nose and drink it, it's like water.
Really?
Yeah.
Never paid attention.
Yes, you're right. This is lemon. There's like this also without lemon.
Right. So he brings as some say you say a bracha anyway just because of that taste. Others say it's only if you enjoy the taste. But then he brings an interesting thing. What if you're drinking tea without sugar?
I drink tea without.
So he says, if you enjoy it, you say Shehakol. But if you didn't enjoy it, you usually have sugar, and you can't find any sugar. So he says, it's like water, no bracha.
Water is no bracha, Rabbi?
Water, if you're not thirsty, is no bracha. Water, matalot sameh.
I used to
But my question, Rebbe, is it's added. I mean, there's certain teas. It depends on the tea also. It could be a fruit tea.
Yeah.
It could be it has you have to know which type of tea you're having also. That's
It's an interesting chiddush because to me it would seem like anything that has flavor, you don't like it, too bad. You're drinking it. It has a flavor. Just because you don't like it, why not make a bracha? But Rafal was mentioning before that he saw somewhere that if you don't like vodka, you don't like the taste, that it's a question about making a bracha. This seems to be following in that thing. But again, it's a chiddush to me. Without this, I would have thought that it has a flavor, whether you like it or not. You say a bracha.
So my question. Okay, so Rafael said that he saw a source that if you don't like it.
Again, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a chiddush. That's all.
I used to drink a tea with sugar.
Yeah.
I stopped the sugar. It doesn't taste good. I still drink it.
Drink tea without sugar to it.
Yeah.
Or coffee without
Yeah. Yeah.
So Shehakol is
Rabbi, I have a question. In a case of
not 100% sure.
because it's hot, Rabbi. You don't need it.
Right.
Rabbi, in a case of doing kiddush in something that you don't like, you wouldn't be yoyed to the kiddush if you didn't enjoy it because you said a bracha. I mean, like
what? Like what?
Okay, for example, I think we've said this in Minhag Chabad is you say kiddush in vodka and simchas Torah.
Minhag Chabad? Since when?
It's not a minhag. I should say a lot of people do it.
A lot of people do it. Doesn't make it Minhag Chabad. But go ahead, yes.
That is true. So if you say kiddush and vodka and you didn't enjoy it, would that be considered what, like a bracha levatah? Considered, I mean, with that source, or
as far as I know, you make a bracha even if you don't enjoy it. If it's an edible food and it has a taste, just because you are not enjoying it, I don't think it makes a difference.
Okay.
But again, he saw it somewhere, so I'm not going to say 100%. But that's what it would seem to me.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Sure. Okay. I just want to point out that I read a machlokas. What if, when you started to drink, you were thirsty? By the time you finished the revius, you weren't thirsty. I understand, but you stopped being thirsty in the middle of the revius. Bracha achrona, exactly. He brings here in the Sefer, there's a bracha. The Vilna Gaon says no bracha achrona. You have to be thirsty kashir revius. You have to stay thirsty for the entire revius, and then you say the bracha achrona, otherwise not. But I saw definitely someone, quoted Reb Shlomo Zalman, I remember who, that said no, as long as you're thirsty in the beginning, it's considered like one continuation. You say bar nefashos, as long as you drank a revius, even if you weren't actually thirsty when you finished.
You have to be super conscious to know exactly when you're not thirsty.
That's true. That's true.
So how do we paskin? I heard a story with Reb Nissen Nemenov where he waited for the tea to cool down so he could drink it in a faster shot as opposed to sipping it. Is that how would that apply practically?
Yeah, that's a good idea. If you drink tea slowly, it's a question on the bracha achrona. But one of the things to do is you can leave her revius at the end. You can drink it slowly, but leave her revius at the end, you know what I'm saying? And then that revius, after it's cool, you could just drink it down.
What's the issue with drinking it slowly if you're going to have a revius?
Because even a revius, you have to drink it in a certain amount of time in order to say the bracha achrona.
Oh.
That's why I'm taking a cookies. Hot, then I do the chapona anyway.
זה ברכה אחרת, אז זה יעזור.
No, אבל הברכה האחרונה עושים also to prepare a small cookie.
קוקי זה על המחיה, tea זה ברי נפשות.
קוקי אפילו זה small, זה על המחיה.
אם אכלת כשיעור זה על המחיה. לא אכלת כשיעור זה שום דבר. חצי שיעור זה לא ברי נפשות. חצי שיעור זה שום דבר. Okay. V'shar mashkim, other drinks. Sheyesh another good processing with Haimon that you enjoy when you drink it from the taste. So you have to make a bracha before and after. I'll be sure to tell them even if you're not hungry or thirsty. You have to help yourself. You have to help swallow something, not going down. So if you're drinking water, no bracha.
That's what I'm asking.
If you're drinking the broad water, no bracha, because you're not thirsty. You're just drinking it to help something go down. Taste is not important. But if you're drinking a drink that has a taste, orange juice, something else, so even if you're not thirsty, you're just drinking it to help that go down. Fact is, it has a good taste. You have to make a bracha.
But Rabbi, if you're doing it to take it down, you cannot talk. You cannot do anything.
Do your best. Do your best. If your mamish can't talk, then that's pretty dangerous. You better drink.
Yes.
But if you can talk a little bit, you say bracha. Let's do one more as the buzzer is striking 10. So to all the foods and drinks. We mentioned this before. That a person eats and drinks for a refuah. If their taste is good, and the palate enjoys them, you make the bracha before and after. Even if you have no desire for them at all. You're only eating them because of you're forced to do so by your illness. When I was a kid, my mother made okra. Okra. If you don't know how to cook okra, it's pretty bad. Very slimy. Now, there are ways to cook it that it's not slimy, but my mother did not learn those ways. And it was a big struggle, I'll tell you. But the fact
for you guys or for your mother?
Both. But the fact is, it has a taste. So even though you're only eating it for your illness, it has a taste. But if they taste bad, he has no pleasure from them. Even if you have a healing from them, you make no bracha before and after. If they're neither bad nor good, some say you say Shehakol because that's like a standard bracha. No bracha. Unless you happen to be thirsty. Otherwise, no bracha. All right, my friends, we still have Tess and Yud before we are going to start Yud Aleph, which is about fruit juice. And Yud Beis is about fruit soup. And then Tess Vav is about grain soup. And Yud Zayin is about vegetable soup. My friends, we got a lot of soup Torah coming up. But the plan is to meet again via computer on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Be'ezrat Hashem. 10 a.m., 10 to 12. No,
This Sunday?
online only. I apologize. I'm going to be in a tight schedule and I can't come here.
Next one, we're here.
Next time I'm here is the
Other week.
July 29th. Thank you.
So it's the following week, Rabbi, right?
July 29th.
July 28th.
9 is the next time I'm here in this
How many
room.
you in Israel, Kvoto?
אני בישראל מהראשון עד 24.
אוקיי.
אז אני לא פה עד 29. But I would like to do a class once a week on Sunday.
10 o'clock.
Well, 10 o'clock this week. But in Israel, 10 o'clock will be smack in the middle of the day for me.
How long will the class be on Sunday? For an hour or 2 hours?
This week I'll be able to do 2 hours. I'd like to do it for 2 hours every Sunday for the next few weeks. 30th, 7th, 14th, and 21st for the next 4 weeks. I'd like to do 2 hours on a Sunday.
8 o'clock in the East of Ecuador, it will be in the evening. For us, it's going to be 6 hours different.
7 hours.
7.
7 hours, yeah.
I could do it Sunday night, but then it's Sunday afternoon for you.
No,
In the morning and afternoon is the
Sunday
same.
morning is good for me.
Sunday morning's good.
But what about Sunday
Yeah.
afternoon? This
If
week I
that'll be
can
like-
do Sunday morning because I'm still here. But next week I might only be able to do Sunday afternoon. 'Cause I
Okay.
won't be back till later.
That's okay for me.
Just let us know what time exactly.
Okay, so I'll let you know. Zat Hashem.
Nesiat Tova, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Nesiat Tova, Rabbi.